Hello, my mathematicians. This is Miss Foster with Math in Focus, Grade 4, Chapter 7, Lesson 1, Decimals and Understanding Decimal Place Value. My friends, if you've spent any time with me at school, you know I'm a huge fan of our base 10 place value system. And you've spent a lot of time in lower school learning about it. You've also just come off a big unit on fractions. Well, I love decimals because it's like taking everything I love about place value and putting it together with everything I know about fractions. Place value plus fractions equals sweet, sweet decimal love. This is great news for you and your brain because any time that your brain can make connections between things, see relationships between things, see patterns that develop, your brain is crazy for that stuff. And every time you find one, your brain will be able to strong a truly solid connection of understanding. Now our lesson today focuses on tenths, but I would like to give you a big picture overview of what decimals mean. So I'd like to take you back to the beginning of the year where we were just talking about whole numbers. And you've been doing this since kindergarten. You know that single ones, if we get 10 of them, becomes 1/10. If we are going along and we find that we have 10 hundreds, we can regroup those into 100. 10 times 10 is 100. If we have 10 of those hundreds, 100 times 10 is 1,000. And similarly, if we go the opposite direction, if we take 1,000 and divide it into 10 pieces, then we will get hundreds. How about if we divide the 100 into 10 parts? We get tens. How about if we divided 10 into 10 parts? We get single ones. And so our decimal system, being part of our place value system, does that for us, except for pieces and parts. Now, if you've been in class with me and maybe you raised the hand and you said, Miss Foster, I say that the answer is 4,617. It is likely that I have said to you, no, take that and out of there. That is not where it belongs. We will be using it later. We're going to use it now. It is true, I know, that most people in our culture stick an and somewhere in here. But that's not where it belongs. Think about what you learned about mixed numbers in our last chapter. If I wrote 3 and 2/10, doesn't the and go right in the middle? That's where it goes. And so every time you hear that and, that's the decimal point. Right there, the decimal point separates our whole numbers from our pieces and parts. So if I take a whole single one, like imagine a whole pizza, and I slice it up into 10 pieces, I divide it into 10, each of those pieces will be 1/10. And this is the tenths place. If I take one of those tenths and I chop it up into 10 pieces, and I did that for all the tenths in my cake or pizza, I would have one piece would be 1/100ths. I'm just dividing by 10 again. Now, this is the hundredths place. And I must tell you honestly, my friends, if that's enough for you, great, because this is all the farther you have to go for 4th grade. But if you understand the big picture, does it really matter? So if I take 100th and I divide all my hundredths into 10 pieces, now first of all, if you are really imagining the pizza, don't we have a big mess by now? We wouldn't be able to eat it. But what those little tiny strips would be, that you can't even really pick up off the pizza tray, that would be 1,000th. If we take 100 and divide it by 10, we get 1,000th. And it just keeps going. 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths. It goes on and on forever. Of course, I must tell you another reason why we just stick with tenths and hundredths is that those are the ones that people use most of the time. The only weirdos who are using those crazy millionths are our brave heroes in the medical community, our researchers, our biologists, our doctors, our nurses, our technicians. They are working very hard on viruses and vaccines and trying to understand things like cancers or blood vessels. They have microscopes that require them to talk about millionths of things all the time. But in real life, in the sort of everyday world, we usually don't go much smaller than hundredths. So I just wanted to give you a peek at that. Now, we're also looking then for patterns. And I just made myself big. Let's fix that. We're looking for patterns, my friends. And so let's see if we can find some. Do you notice this? I've got a tenths place and a tens place. I've got a hundredths place and a hundreds place. I've got a thousandths place and a thousandths place. So that's another pattern that can help you with decimals. That's the big overview. Let's go play with tenths. This lesson just lets you play a whole lot with tenths. So here we have some pictures of fractions. And because I am telling you they are tenths, I'll let you count them on your own at home. Here we have how many shaded in? 1, 2, 3. As a fraction, we would write that as, oops, I need to get a writing pen here. Excuse me for just a moment. We would write that as 3 tenths. In decimals, we would put a placeholder 0 right here. Now that's something that we do to help ourselves remember, but to also catch the eye of other mathematicians and say, woo, wake up. We have decimals going on. Because usually there's not a 0 written in the front of a whole number. They're all there, but we don't write them. So we put 1 in a decimal as a courtesy to help everybody to remember, dude, I'm with decimals right now. And this is the tenths place, so I just have to drop that 3 into the tenths place. That's how you write 3 tenths. Ooh, look, a mixed number. 1 whole pizza and 2 tenths of it. How would I write that as a decimal? Well, listen to how I say it. 1 and 2 tenths. 1 and 2 tenths. This is the tenths place, so I just have to put the digit 2 in there. That's how you show a decimal. Ooh, we have number lines here. And we have to put X's for each of these. So let's take a look at this number line. It starts here with 0, and it goes to 1 and no tenths. Then it goes to 2 and no tenths. Ooh, because we're dealing with tenths, I bet there are 10 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this little extra long hash mark that they didn't name, that's 5 tenths right there. Okay, so for 0 tenths, well, this is 5, 6, 7. That's where 7 tenths will go. It's got a 0 here in the single ones place, so I know we're not going to go past our single one friend here. Ooh, what about this decimal? 1 and 1 tenth. Well, that 1 is in the single ones place, so let's start at that 1 single one, and then we just have to have 1 tenth more. That is where, on a number line, we show 1 and 1 tenths. Do you remember coming to my room at the beginning of the year where you made those huge place value sculptures? And we did it with both my origami manipulatives, but also with those discs that helped us represent place value. Well, we can use those for fractions as well. So here in my single ones place, I have 2, so I'm going to put those in the single ones place. And this black line here in our Math and Focus book, it stands for that decimal point. And how many tenths do I have over here? Well, this square says 4 to me, and this line says 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. I say that's 2 and 7 tenths. Looks like we have a big old 0 here in this one, no single ones. So I'll put that placeholder 0 there and add my decimal point, and whoa! That's a whole lot of tenths. In fact, I know that this square here is 3 times 3. Oh my goodness, that's 9. What am I going to do? If I add just one of those there, just one more, I'd have 10 tenths. I can't put more than 10 tenths in one piece of my place value system. Can I write it like this? Well, this is where we have to think hard about all your excellent learning in fractions. If you had written a fraction where the denominator 10 was equal to the numerator, in this case 10, that you would know that that is a fractional form that is equal to 1. So I'm going to get to do some regrouping here. Whee! Regrouping is the superpower of place value. Dun da da da! Here we go. So I've got to get out my trusty handy dandy eraser. Mathematicians love erasers. And I'm going to take these 10 tenths and make one single one out of them. Then I will put my and in here and 1, 2, 3. Now you will notice that this version of this decimal looks different from this. So in our place value system, one of the rules is that there's only one digit in each decimal place, in each place value place. So I can't put the 1 and the 3 in here unless I'm doing it super temporarily to subtract. And that's chapter 8, and we'll get there soon. But just sneak peek from tomorrow, this is not 13 tenths. This says 0 and 13 hundredths, because the next place down, like I showed you at the beginning, is the hundredths place. Here we go. We're translating these fractional parts into decimals. 4 tenths of a meter. No whole meters. 4 tenths. There's the tenths place. Ha-ha. Ooh, word form here. 7 tenths. Well, I'm going to use my placeholder 0 right here and shove that 7 into the tenths place. The tenths place is the first one to the right of the decimal. Another fraction. Ooh, and it's an improper fraction. Now, if I were to simplify that improper fraction, I would take 10 away from 16 and make it into a single 1. And I would be left with 1 and 6 tenths. So I can use that here when I'm creating the decimal. The single 1 goes in the single 1's place. The and is for the decimal point, and the 6 tenths will go in the tenths place. Here's another regrouping opportunity. 14 tenths. Watch this. When you really get used to this, you'll be able to say, okay, it's 14 tenths, but I can only have one digit in each place of value. So that means that these 10 tenths must be a single 1. And I can just drop the decimal point in the middle there and change the magnitude of those digits. Wow, love place value. Here's a nice one, 2 and 9 tenths of a kilogram. 2 and for my decimal point, 9 tenths. And you know what? I don't need to put a fraction there, even though I think that my brain just wanted me to. This is the tenths place. So we don't need to have a fraction right there, do we? I'll just tidy up my work a little bit so that my teacher can read it when she's looking at what a good job I did. Ooh, the word form, 9 ones and 6 tenths. 9 ones in the single ones place, and there's my decimal point, 6 tenths. Now, they're going to go the other way, analyzing the decimals themselves, and here's the word form. So there's a 3 in the tenths place. That means we have 3 tenths. There's 2 and 9 tenths. Think back. If we were writing this as a mixed number and we wanted to change it into an improper fraction, we would say, well, there's 10 in every one of those chocolate bars. If I have 2 whole chocolate bars, I've got 10 times 2 of those little pieces that you can easily snap off of your chocolate bar. Chocolate. So that means I would have 20 pieces in the whole number, plus 9 more pieces would equal 29 tenths. And in fractional form, we would write it like this. In word form, just have to write it like that, 29 tenths. Here we have to fill in the missing numbers. And now we're going to be using word form and expanded form. You played with these at the beginning of 4th grade and the beginning of 3rd grade, and I think you might have in 2nd grade as well. So we're just using those same old tricks to help us analyze numbers and understand them. And here we go. 3 and 5 tenths is the same as 3 ones and 5 tenths. 18, ooh, what's that 1 stand for? That's 1 10, 8 ones, and 7 tenths. Here's the expanded form. 7 and 5 tenths is the same as 7 plus 5 tenths. And I'll put that placeholder 0 there so everybody gets that little warning. Hey guys, talking about tenths. 10 and 8 tenths would be the same as 10 plus 8 tenths. 3 and 6 tenths. Ooh, now we're going from the decimal back into the mixed number fraction expanded form. So cool. This is the tenths place, so it's 6 tenths. 21 and 4 tenths. Well, that would be 20 for the tenths place, 1 for the single ones place, and 4 tenths for the tenths place. And now, what are the missing words and numbers here? In a chart like this, it invites us to analyze, to break these things into their pieces. It's a way of learning them and showing that you understand them. The digit 7 is in the ones place. I, of course, would say single ones, but I'm not going to write that out for you. The digit 3 stands for, ooh, there's a 3 in the tens place. It stands for 30, doesn't it? Because 3 times 10 is 30. And the value of the digit 5 is, well, you could either write this as a decimal, 5 tenths, or it would also be correct to write it as a fraction, 5 tenths. My friends, you've got 4 workbook pages in your brand spanking new workbook B. And you have a grading master on the Google Classroom assignment, so check every page and make sure you do it in color with a nice fat marker so I can see it when you turn it in. If you get lost or stuck, please rewatch this video, bust out your fraction bars, and bye-bye for now.